Good afternoon, Excellencies and distinguished participants, and welcome to the Callistus Juma Executive Dialogue. The Callistus Juma Executive Dialogue was established in honor of Professor Callistus Juma, who was the co-chair of the African Union High-Level Panel on Emerging Technologies. The purpose of the Executive Dialogue is to convene policy and decision makers, as well as other relevant stakeholders, to share knowledge, experience, discuss challenges that are confronted by our AU member states, and also to discuss the best practices and the lessons learned from these challenges. And so we are really honored to have you participate in this webinar session today. We usually have a regional convenings as well as in-country or national dialogues. And so with the onset of the COVID-19, all our activities have been done virtually. And we know that there are really competing demands for your time. And so for panelists as well as participants, we do not take this for granted. We are really honored to have you, and we really appreciate you for making the time to join us this afternoon. We're all looking forward to a really productive deliberation. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Joe Ageyo, who will take us through the program for this afternoon. So once again, thank you, and we look forward to a really enjoyable time. Joe, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Justina, and welcome everybody to this very important meeting coming at a time when, as Justina mentioned, we are not able to have very many physical meetings, but all the same, we just have to continue discussing important things. So really, really honored to have all of you, as Justina mentioned. And short of going through the entire program, I think it is fair to just mention that as many of you may already be aware, we'll have a block of opening remarks that will take us about 10 minutes, hopefully, and then we'll have keynote presentations, which is the second segment over there. And then we will have 2 panel discussions after that, which will be truncated in the sense that we'll have Q&A sessions in between, and we'll keep talking about this program as we go along, just so that we save on time. Please remember that this is a meeting where we require your participation. Participants, not spectators. So please be engaged and make sure that your voice is heard when the time comes. There is a chat and Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can always post your questions there as early as now, or if indeed you hear something from any of our panelists and our speakers that you really want to comment or ask a question. The other thing I think that is important is that down there, this meeting is available in 2 languages. We have it in both English and French, and so there is interpretation going on. So you just need to click on the globe button at the bottom of your screen, and then you'll be able to determine which of the 2 languages you're most comfortable with. So without any further ado, I would like us to get on with it, and it would be totally un-African if we just jumped into it without being welcomed by the hosts. And that is why we are going to have our 2 opening remarks. One of them, the beginning from Madam Chiriga Jennifer, who is the Chief of Staff at the AUDA-NEPAD. Please understand that all of these people have very impressive CVs, and I will not be going into the details of all of them, so you just take my word for it. So I would like to welcome Madam Jennifer Chiriga, who is the Chief of Staff at one of our hosts, which is AUDA-NEPAD, to give the first opening remarks. Madam Jennifer, if you could unmute yourself, please.
Okay.
Now we can hear you. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished members of the African Union High-Level Panel on Emerging Technologies, Your Excellency ambassadors, Directors General and CEOs, Vice Chancellors, National Directors, ladies and gentlemen. Good day and welcome to the Callistus Juma Executive Dialogue webinar series. This particular webinar is a consultative roundtable organized by AUDA-NEPAD in collaboration with the African Agricultural Technology Foundation, AATF, on the theme Agricultural Biotechnology, Innovation and Emerging Technologies for Africa's Rural Economic Transformation. Technology has been the most important single driver of economic growth since World War II. As you may all know, biotechnology is nearly as old as humanity. We can thank our distant ancestors for kickstarting the agricultural revolution, using artificial selection for crops, livestock, and other domesticated animals. When Edward Jenner invented vaccines, and when Alexander Fleming discovered antibiotics, they were harnessing the power of biotechnology. And of course, modern civilization would hardly be imaginable without the fermentation processes that gave us beer, wine, and cheese. It is recognized that biotechnology plays a significant role in meeting the demand for industrial and agricultural production, as well as medicine globally. Although humans have been using microorganisms, animals, plants, and enzymes for millennia, it is only modern biotechnology that has made it possible to optimize them specifically for defined processes. Biotechnology is behind blockbuster drugs for treating cancer and heart disease, and it's being deployed in cutting-edge research to cure Alzheimer's and reverse aging. At policy level, the potential for genetic engineering to make a significant contribution in the development of better healthcare and enhanced food security through sustainable agricultural practices was recognized in Agenda 21 of the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, and in the African Union's Agenda 2063 and STISA 2024 strategies. The rapid progress of research has raised questions about the consequences of biotechnology advances. While the risks of biotechnology have been present for decades, the increasing pace of progress, ranging from low-cost DNA sequencing to rapid gene synthesis to precision genome editing, suggests that biotechnology is entering a new realm of maturity. This is in regard to both beneficial applications and more worrisome risks. For now, many of the benefits of biotechnology are concrete, while many of the risks remain hypothetical. However, it is better to be proactive and cognizant of the risks than to wait until something goes wrong and then attempt to address the damage. Hence the need for more research and development dialogue. At AUDA-NEPAD, the African Biosafety Network of Expertise, ABNE, was established as a continent-wide biosafety service and resource network for African regulators and policymakers. ABNE is an African-led and African-based initiative conceptualized under the AU's Consolidated Plan of Action and is designed to fulfill the recommendations of the 2007 report by the high-level African Panel on Modern Biotechnology, the Freedom to Innovate. The overall goal of ABNE is to support the advancement of science and technology for agricultural development in Africa through the establishment of functional biosafety systems. ABNE offers biosafety capacity strengthening services aimed at empowering African regulators with science-based information. The network draws on available expertise, resources, and infrastructure, and develops capacity and linkages with institutions within Africa as well as globally. It enables African countries to harness modern agricultural biotechnology for improved food security, income and livelihoods, while minimizing potential risks to the environment and to human health. Additionally, using platforms such as the Callistus Juma Executive Dialogue, AUDA-NEPAD supports capacity strengthening for biotechnology and other science, technology, and innovation stakeholders through informed dialogues that support knowledge sharing, such as this roundtable. The Callistus Juma Executive Dialogue draws together specialists from multiple disciplines to share knowledge on the most exciting new areas of teaching and research. The African Union High-Level Panel, as a continental think tank on innovation and emerging technologies, also offers guidance to member states in effectively harnessing biotechnology for Africa's socio-economic development through its knowledge products. In conclusion, the history of Africa has been marked by a unique development narrative in which science, technology, and innovation have often been viewed as a preserve for a select few, rather than as tools for development. But this narrative is starting to change. African leaders now view science, technology, and innovation as critical to human development, global competitiveness, and ecological management. We seek to explore avenues of leapfrogging where successful applications of biotechnology can be modeled across the continent with adequate regulation and technology optimization. Through collaborations such as the one between AUDA-NEPAD and AATF, and these programs and initiatives, the continent's development agency stands ready to support agricultural biotechnology solutions, whilst promoting a culture that allows responsible regulation without imposing an undue burden on technology adoption. On this note, allow me to wish this gathering productive deliberations and forward-looking outcomes from the Roundtable consultation. Thank you for your kind attention.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Jennifer Chiriga from AUDA-NEPAD, setting us on a very inspirational note. And the second host, who's also going to welcome us with a few remarks, is Dr. Dennis Chetere, who is the Executive Director of AATF. Dr. Chetere, please.
Thank you very much, Joe Ageyo, for that introduction. And thanks very much, Jennifer, for that brief. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to all of you participants. And let me also start by appreciating all the protocols, so Your Excellencies, distinguished members, ladies and gentlemen, and all protocol observed. I want to thank you all for having come to attend the meeting today. I want to thank the leadership of AUDA-NEPAD, led by Dr. Ibrahim Miyaki, who is now being represented by Madam Jennifer Chiriga at the moment, for favorably considering the request from AATF to jointly hold this high-level roundtable meeting on agricultural biotechnology in Africa under the theme, Innovation, Emerging Technologies for Africa's Rural Economy Transformation. The meeting is part of the webinar series of consultative meetings under the Callistus Juma Executive Dialogues, as you have heard from Jennifer. And as AATF, we are profoundly honored to be part of this high-level roundtable meeting. As you heard in the first report on technology development, the freedom to innovate, Africa leaders agreed to promote critical mass of technological expertise to allow the continent to exploit the potential of technology for agricultural productivity and enhance health care management. But despite the potential by technology, investment in research and development has been unpredictable, with many countries lagging and only very few crops have advanced commercialization. AATF's partnership with AUDA-NEPAD and other like-minded organizations is key in pushing for agricultural technology development, adoption, and addressing the challenges setting the technology. In our partnership, we should gently harness the opportunities for technology development and address challenges in agricultural biotechnology in Africa. AATF is pleased to be partners with a number of organizations attending this event as we strive to address the operating enabling environment for technology development and uptake through various initiatives, including the Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology that is now present in 7 African countries. Ladies and gentlemen, AATF is committed to contributing to eradication of hunger and poverty on the continent and attaining of health and wealth of the people. And the role of technology can be overemphasized, especially in times of climate variability. We hope that the consultative meeting will contribute to efforts to place biotechnology at the center of Africa's development agenda. This forum should agree on how AATF and AUDA-NEPAD can sustain these conversations. In that regard, the meeting should generate an action plan to guide the joint work of the 2 organizations on agricultural biotechnology in Africa. AATF is looking forward to successful and fruitful deliberations. Thank you for listening, and once again, you are welcome. Back to you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chattere from AATF, giving us the second set of opening remarks there, challenging us to come up with a way forward. This meeting, ladies and gentlemen, because we are virtual, we can as well use the language of social media that we're doing a status update, but then we'll also ask, so what? Given the situation that we are dealing with on the continent, where there is immense potential that has been demonstrated for biotechnology, and yet the adoption is not as fast as many of us would want it to go. So I want us to transition into the next set of presentations, which is really our keynote segment. We're going to have 3 presentations here to try and assess where we are with regard to biotechnology on the continent. And the first presentation is going to come from Dr. Mahama Ouedraogo, Director of Human Resources, Science and Technology Directorate at the AUC. So he's going to speak about harnessing biotech and emerging technologies for the modernization and transformation of agriculture. So Dr. Ouedraogo, if you could take the floor, please. Okay, I don't seem to be hearing him. I think we can get the next presentation as we try and get Dr. Mahama. So if you don't mind, Dr. Jeremy Ouedraogo, Head of African Biosafety Network of Expertise, AUDA-NEPAD, if you can please just come in with African Union support to members in building biosafety regulatory systems for the safe use of modern biotech in agriculture, as we try and sort out the first presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, Dr. Ouedraogo.
Yes, we can see it. It's quite clear.
Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. I'm really glad to be part of this important consultative roundtable. As really introduced by our Chief of Staff, we as ABNEV, African Biosafety Network of Expertise, we serve as the African Union program, supporting the member states, definitely to build functional biosafety regulatory systems so that they can safely harness, use, deploy, do research based on modern biotechnology for agriculture. This is absolutely in line, I would say, with the Agenda 2063, that is the continent's blueprint for sustainable development and economic growth. I can simply remind you that the aspiration #1 that clearly states a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. This is mainly based on transformation and modernization of agriculture. As you all know, most of the African countries' economic development is based on agriculture. The African Union has recognized then science, technology, and innovation as a multifunctional tool and an enabler in achieving development goals. And within science, technology, and innovation, modern biotechnology is in the model. Today, more emerging technologies are coming. And I could even say that this COVID-19 crisis has stressed on the need for the African continent, definitely, to harness science, technology, and innovation in all areas. Coming back to the Agenda 2063, as I said, it will be definitely attained through modernization of our agriculture. The Science, Technology, and Innovation Strategic Plan of the African Union made it absolutely clear to accelerate the African transition into definitely an innovation-led and knowledge-based economy, which means that we definitely need to do research, we need to do trials, we need to implement, we need to search for additional tools, definitely for the development and the transformation of our agriculture. Modern biotechnology has then been considered as the African Union as an enabler. But as you all know, modern biotechnology and some emerging technologies are regulated under some protocols related to the Convention on Biological Diversity. And one of them is the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety to the Convention on Biological Diversity. This is simply about rules, about regulatory material, about legal frameworks to make sure that modern biotechnology and emerging technologies are safely used to prevent any harm on human, on environment, and animals. That's why the African Biosafety Expertise has been established to serve as the program, strengthening the capacity of the African Union member states. The overall goal being to support the member states in safely harnessing modern biotechnology and emerging technologies through 3 key areas of support. One of them is creating an enabling legal environment. I will comment more on that. The second is training regulators, decision makers, any stakeholder involved to improve the critical mass of regulators with enhanced competencies. And third, providing strategic partnership and learning opportunities for any single member state. I would say our area of expertise through this program is very wide, covering all the domains that are required to establish a functional system in the member states. It goes from environmental safety, biosafety, communication, food safety, socioeconomic aspects, to legal aspect of biosafety and many other areas. We are even involved at the international level, serving as secretariat to the African group, because negotiations to definitely define or establish regulatory pathways, this is negotiated at the international level. And our program represents AUDA-NEPAD, serving as the secretariat to the African group of negotiators. So that more practically, when we are talking about a support area for enabling policy and legal environment, it simply goes from supporting countries to develop new policies, regulations, guidelines, developing, I would say, national laws, and for some of them, reviewing those national instruments to make them more functional, more workable. This is what it is about. When you look at the map in your right, definitely it shows you in green all the countries where we do have a regulatory system in place, able to make a decision on behalf of a country. But we still have a lot to do to cover the countries in gray, because the systems are yet to be developed fully and make them able to make informed decisions, how best to definitely harness or even regulate the utilization of the modern biotechnology tools and products. We are committed to that, and we simply request countries to file any request to the CEO of our institution, and from there, we take over and then support in building the system together with the national stakeholders. When we talk about creation of critical mass of regulators, policy and decision makers, it means that we have the expertise to support them in biosafety administration, because you all know regulators do need all those human and material means to implement the law and make sure that all the stakeholders using modern technology comply with the rules. Application review, meaning that scientists who would like to definitely go into modern technology research, they need approvals, they need to follow regulations, and this is through the application review that the National Biosafety Authority do deliver or reject any approval for such research. Decision-making is a key area, because based on the advice of technical bodies, the authority has to make the final decision. And this is at the national level. We are moving slowly to regional harmonizations, but for now, it's at the national level. Today, we can say that our support, together with other institutions' support, many countries have made informed decisions resulting in progress in those member states. Some have conducted confined trials, some have moved over to that level to commercial cultivation of crops, and this is the best way for Africa definitely to make its own decision whether to go or not to go. We also developed many materials. This is our task. So available knowledge products can be easily accessed by any single country. Through our website, many material, best practices in biosafety, updates on the status of the member states. We call it Biosafety in Africa. Guidelines and manuals, policy briefs, newsletters that we share every quarter. Please go through our website. Please write to us. We have been established to serve the African countries, and we do have the knowledge products to serve you so that you can domesticate, you can easily use to make your national systems absolutely functional. Moving from, I would say, national level, at regional level, a lot has been accomplished, and we are still improving because bringing many countries together when it comes to, let's say, harmonizing regulations is not an easy task. So in West Africa, for example, the harmonization has been moved forward with its first step up to the ministerial level, but you know, it's a living process where you start at some point, but you keep improving. So this is what we intend to continue providing as support to the regional economic communities in the continent. It goes beyond that to even support the regulators to establish platforms so that they can very regularly consult themselves, make common decision or recommendations. And that's why in West Africa, I would say a forum of the West Africa biosafety regulators has been established. This is absolutely a very useful platform for them to share knowledge, to share information, to share experience, but also when comes the time to make common decision, they can easily speak with one voice on behalf of their region. At the continental level, I would say that a lot of efforts have been also made to bring all the 54 or 5 countries together so that they can easily share information, do trainings for stakeholders, but also at the international level, they can easily speak with one voice on behalf of the entire continent. At the continental level, when it comes to biosafety, we are part of the Continental Coordination Committee on Biodiversity, Biosafety, and access and benefit sharing when it comes to biodiversity utilization. There is also, I will come back on this one, regarding the international negotiations where parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, parties to its related protocols, such as the Cartagena Protocol. We, as I already said, we serve as secretariat to the African group, and we assist them in definitely building common position to face the rest of the world and make sure that the African continent interest is preserved and safeguarded. We also used to do trainings, and also we support establishment of a continental platform to allow regulators to meet regularly, and also make sure that any decision or any recommendation can find the right pathway to the decision-making bodies at AUDA-NEPAD or at the African Union Commission. The picture here just highlights the last COP-MOP, Conference of Parties to the Convention of Biological Diversity, meeting of parties to the protocols, be it Cartagena or Kuala Lumpur. The African group strongly defend the African Union positions. And the last meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt has demonstrated that Africa can definitely stand up and definitely tell to the rest of the world what is good for the continent, definitely tell the rest of the world that the continent has the required scientists, the continent has the required regulatory bodies able to make informed decisions and contribute to advancement of science and make sure that modern biotechnology is safely harnessed for the good of the African people. As I said, we also provide trainings at the continental level, and the picture here showed the last training on international negotiations and also on some more technical matters such as genome editing. This particular one, international negotiation, seems to be a critical one. Being participating in international negotiations is one thing. Having the skills, definitely, to definitely defend your own positions is completely different. And you need to have the skills. And most of our stakeholders do have the will, but don't have the skills. That's why we implement this program, and this program will continue to make sure that the African stakeholders have the required skills to participate. We also support the countries in making sure that any single expert available in one member state is made available to the other countries. That's why we support establishment of resource networks, bringing the food safety experts through a network so that they can share information. Sometimes when you look for a consultant or even a resource person to come in a training or a conference, it's not an easy task. We also support the establishment of environment resource networks. The experts in this one also will make themselves available to all the countries. Socioeconomics, communication, and lawyers. Yeah, this last one, we just realized that when we participate in COP-MOP, this international gathering to negotiate the regulatory matters at international level, a single word misplaced can definitely make a harm to your country, to your continent. That's why you need specialists in this area. And we then realized that we need lawyers to be with our scientists, to be with our regulators and advise on what to agree on with the rest of the world, what to reject because it doesn't meet the continent, I would say, interest. So all those networks are available to support any single country. I just covered the national level where the support at any single area is based on your simple request to the AUDA-NEPAD. At regional level, the platforms serve the regional economic communities, but this is an area where we still need to improve. And AUDA-NEPAD, in its new establishment, is now planning to have high-level meetings with REX, definitely, to strengthen this cooperation with them. At continental level, as I said, making sure that Africa speaks with one voice when it comes to modern biotechnology at the international level, be it on, let's say, pushing for research and development, be it in defining the ways to regulate. Africa's interests should be strongly defended in that, and that's why we support the African group of negotiators. Also, as I said, countries are not at the same level. Making resources, people available is crucial so that they can learn, they can have information, and also they can develop their own, I would say, system so that they can, based on their own sovereignty and capacity to make decisions, harness modern biotechnology and transform their agriculture. The last but not the least is establishing the African Union Biosafety Regulators Forum. This is to make sure that we bring all the national systems together when it comes to biosafety regulatory systems. Information sharing, strengthening capacity, but also making decisions to be endorsed by the decision-making bodies at AUDA-NEPAD or at African Union Commission. This is what this forum will serve for. And we really hope that all the countries will commit to that so that we serve our countries, making sure that scientists can move forward with scientific research, but at the same time, regulatory side follows to make sure that there is no harm to environment, to human, and to animals. Mr. Moderator, in conclusion, AUDA-NEPAD remains a critical point, I would say, for engagement with member states, be it at national, regional, or continental level, and even at the international arena. Service delivery, support and to establish biosafety systems so that they can safely harness modern technology is based upon request. Just send an official letter to the CEO of AUDA-NEPAD, and the next day, ABNE and its team, we are ready to support. Lastly, I would remind you that our goal is to improve the policy formulation and establish regulatory framework in support of an enabling environment so that any single country can safely harness the technology and make sure that it is used in compliance with its national laws, regulations, and policies. Make sure that you visit our website. Make sure that if your country is still not receiving support from our program, what you just need to do, get your relevant minister to file a request to the CEO of NEPAD. And as I said, we are ready to support you and make sure that agriculture is transformed, modernized, and agriculture can definitely increase the production and the productivity for the African people. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Jeremy Ouedraogo. He you have actually given 2 presentations in one according to my timetable here, but thank you very much for very useful pointers about the kind of support that countries, member states are getting from AUDA-NEPAD. I would like to urge the next set of speakers that we actually stick to our time so that we are able to have more conversations. Remember, I said that we want to engage as many people as possible. I see some of you are already sending your questions and comments in our Q&A box, and that is really great. So please keep doing it. The other thing is that this is going on, the conversation is also going on social media, and the hashtag we're using is prosperity through technology. So you can go on whatever social media platform you use and make sure you say something about this meeting. So the next presenter that we're going to have is Dr. Francis Nangayo, who is the head of regulatory affairs at AATF. And Dr. Nangayo, I am hoping that you can stick to the 15 minutes, if not less, obviously without leaving any critical points that we should consider as we go on with this meeting. Dr. Nangayo, please.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. Can you see my screen?
Right now, we can see you.
Okay. Just hang on a minute.
There you go. We now can see your screen.
Okay, thank you, moderator, one more time, and distinguished participants for joining into this webinar. I will spend the 15 minutes allocated to me to share our experiences as AATF in developing and deploying biotech crops as a means for addressing agricultural challenges in sub-Saharan Africa. And this is something we do, believing that it contributes to the larger goal of attaining agricultural transformation in Africa. And to do this, I will begin by sharing just a snapshot of agricultural sector performance for various regions of the world, including Africa, so that you see how we have been trending as Africa in this space. And at this point, I will also hasten to highlight some of the major challenges hampering agricultural productivity in Africa. And after doing that, then I will dedicate the remaining bit of my time to share with you the interventions spearheaded by AATF and partners regarding biotechnology. And in this regard, I will restrict myself to 3 broad areas for reasons of time, being the endeavor that AATF has been involved in developing maize that is climate smart and also insect resistant. I will also talk about the endeavors that AATF and partners have been involved in developing cowpea that is resistant to insect pests, and also talk about rice that is being developed to thrive in soils that are nutrient deficient and also cope with the vagaries of climate change in terms of moisture stress or drought, if you like. This picture, this graph on the left, which is an excerpt of FAO stats, shows the agricultural productivity of various regions of the world in terms of average cereal yields, indicating Europe at the top of all other regions, followed by Asia, Latin America, and unfortunately depicting Africa as an area that has been showing actually decades of stagnation for the last 5 decades. And this is obviously troubling to me and to many of you, considering also that around this time, the population of Africa has grown, has been growing higher than all other regions of the world, now standing at just about 1.2 billion people. There are many reasons responsible for this low productivity in Africa that only just averages at around 1.5 tons per hectare. One of them is climate change. Climate change is real, ladies and gentlemen, now manifesting itself in form of frequent droughts and weather variability. And it's projected that by 2050, and that will happen in our lifetime, because of global warming, when the global temperature will rise by an average of 1 degree Celsius, I think the frequency of droughts will be more common and the impact will even be greater. Another challenge responsible for low productivity in Africa has got to do with insect pests and diseases, and there are very many in Africa. And tied to climate change, we will see more invasions of insect pests, just like it's happening now with the fall armyworm. There are other challenges to do with low productivity in Africa tied to low soil nutrients, and most importantly tied to what you may call low technological endowment in Africa, with an improved crop varieties that have been used and recycled for many years. It is this state of affairs that led to the establishment of AATF about 15 or so years ago as an Africa-based not-for-profit organization dedicated to facilitating access to technological interventions, including biotechnology, to address some of these crop productivity challenges in Africa. And the way AATF does this is by starting with a concise identification and prioritization of a constraint to agricultural productivity, which then informs our search and negotiations for access to technologies. And this we do in a fair arrangement that allows for royalty freedom. And when we get license to access and develop the technology, we then assemble partners that can test this and adapt this in compliance with the regulations locally in Africa, setting the stage for delivery of varieties that can impact farmers. Of course, taking into account the critical aspect of technology deployment called stewardship. Yeah, that job is easier said. Of course, it is an awesome, challenging, and demanding responsibility that not a single institution can do. And AATF has worked around this through partnerships. This is an old slide showing some of the partners that we have worked with. You can see the whole range from development partners to CGR institutions, to national research organizations, to sub-regional organizations, NGO, and the private sector. Mr. Moderator, let me now move to actually speak, drive this point home by talking about the three case studies that I highlighted at the very beginning. One is that AATF has worked on maize. And maize, why maize? Maize is an important staple crop for an estimated 300 million plus people in Africa who depend on maize directly for food and also for income. And in Africa, maize is grown predominantly under rain-fed conditions, where it then becomes prone to challenges of moisture stress and drought. And when drought strikes, as you can see in the map shown here, droughts are becoming more frequent And when drought strike, this results in reduced production, low investments, and leaving the populations, many of the populations affected with food insecurity. Maize also suffers from insect pests. For instance, stem borers shown to the left of this picture, stem borers alone that affect maize while still in the field are responsible for 15 to 20% yield loss. In Kenya alone, stem borers cost loss ranging up to 400,000 tons in just a year, translating to 90 million US dollars worth. And as you may know, the pest complex of most crops on the continent changed dramatically with the arrival of a new player called the fall armyworm. The fall armyworm struck Africa in 2019, and in just a year, it had spread to all the countries shaded here, all of sub-Saharan Africa. And the fall armyworm, believe you me, is a more damaging pest, causing losses estimated into millions of tons of yield loss, translating into billions of dollars annually. And so, way back in 2008, AATF rolled out a multi-partner, multi-pronged project initiative called WEMA-TELA to develop, test, and deploy maize that is resistant to drought, tolerant to drought, and resistant to insect pests, using a combination of approaches schematically shown here. In other words, WEMA project had 3 product pipelines. The first one here is focused on use of advanced plant breeding. Use of advanced plant breeding to better characterize what breeders call the QTLs responsible for drought, and with the help of mark-assisted selection and double haploid technology, this pipeline was able to quickly develop conventional hybrid maize that were later rolled out as drought tego under the brand name of drought tego. And several of them have so far been released out there. The last time I counted, we had 120 or so varieties. There was also another pipeline under the WEMA project, this time focusing on genetic modification of maize with genes that would confer into maize the ability for drought tolerance. And under this pipeline, we were able to come up with genetically modified drought tolerance maize that would then was later released under the brand name of Drought Guard. There was a third pipeline focusing on genetic transformation of maize to confer maize with resistance to stem borers. The product here was BT maize that was later rolled out under the brand name of TELA. And with one pipeline of GM maize that is drought tolerant and another one on GM maize that was insect resistant, we were also able to use simply what is called breeding combination to end up with another set of varieties that had insect resistance and drought tolerance also being released out there as under the brand name of TELA. Mr. Moderator, the story about WEMA and TELA is a long one, but permit me just to say that under field conditions.
Yeah, if you can make it brief, because your time actually is gone. If
Thank
you can finish within the next 3 minutes, I'll be happy.
Thank you very much, Moderator. Under field conditions, you can see non-GM maize on the very, very left compared to the healthier looking GM maize, the BT maize, meaning that biotechnology actually works. This actually translated to a 33% yield advantage just arising from genetic modification. Moving very quickly to cowpea. Cowpea is also a crop that is very important to Africa, being a source of protein to 200 million people across the continent. And we worked on cowpea because cowpea suffers from insect pests, a whole range of them. The major one is called bottom of the screen. Don't project.
Are we losing Dr. Nangai, or is it just where I am?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, thank you, moderator. In picture form, on the left is the BT cowpea, and on the right is the non-BT cowpea, and you can see the left one has pods, while the one on the right has no pods. These results were so impressive that it cleared the way for the release of BT cowpea for environmental release and commercialization in Nigeria in the year 2019-2020. We have also been working with rice to address soil fertility conference. And in the interest of time, I just want to say that our focus was to develop and disseminate rice that is nitrogen use efficient, water use efficient, and also salt tolerant. At the moment, we are restricting our work on 3 pilot countries here of Ghana, Nigeria, and Uganda, and the partners involved are shown here. This work is fairly upstream, but we have gained traction working under confined field trials where we have identified a lead event that is nitrogen use efficient, and we are now doing the final agrophenotypic evaluation and regulatory trials that will allow for request for release of this promising line for use in Africa. Ultimately, we want to have rice that is nitrogen efficient, water use efficient, and can also grow in saline environments. This is still under trial with encouraging results at the bottom here showing 30 to 75% yield advantage, but more work needs to be done in this area. Mr. Chairman and moderator, permit me to round up by saying, based on just what I've shown you, is that biotech crops have proven potential for addressing food security and tackling the impact of climate change in Africa. We know that biotechnology is not a cure-all for all the challenges that we have in agriculture, but it's a critical tool in the toolkit for addressing agricultural productivity. What Africa needs is the right environment, and we are very happy ABNI is working on this, and not the politics of fear and misinformation that we see all too often around here. If we set up the right environment, we'll harness biotechnology for rural economic transformation in Africa. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nangayo, speaking to us. He's from AATF and giving us interesting pointers from a biosafety perspective and just some of the progress that has been made on the African continent. Now, at this point, we should have been taking some comments here and there, and I can see a lot of them already coming in. If you haven't said anything since you came to this meeting, please go to the chat box or the Q&A and say something. I think that it is important for all of us to engage. So in the next 30 seconds, I'm expecting to see 100 and something comments here, because that is just about how many people we are here. So there are a couple of questions and comments that have come, and I'll be trying to get Dr. Mahama shortly, because I'm told we now have him. But there is a gentleman, his name is Odipo John. It says Dr. Chetere was working with him somewhere in his previous life. But he has interesting perspective. He says that I pioneered the application of CRISPR-Cas9 mediated targeted genome editing for research and development in cassava as part of my PhD research in the USA, and he says it's available to train young people. But his comment is that for African farmers to benefit from biotechnology revolution, Africa must build capacity of its nationals in core biotechnology applications such as molecular biology, genetic engineering, genome editing. And since biotechnology products are regulated globally, regulatory regimes of African countries must evolve with biotechnological advancements. That is what he's saying. And then his question, does the AU have funds for young African researchers like me to extend application of modern biotechnology for improvements of constraints affecting African crop and animals alike? I want to get just some quick comments from some of my panelists, and if Dr. Wadrago Jeremy, if you could just respond to the question about the comments he makes about what it would take for African farmers to truly benefit from biotechnology. Just some quick thoughts on what John Odepo is saying before we can take the next presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Definitely he's right. But at the same time, the African Union leaders have made it absolutely clear. Harnessing science, technology, and innovation at large, harnessing modern technology as an enabler. This is part of the policies. This is translated at the national level by policies aiming to strengthen the national human capacity, training of young scientists in those emerging technology areas, building facilities, laboratories, establishing national biosafety authorities to consider approval of scientists' research, aiming definitely to use this tool to contribute to the package. It's a package. Biotechnology is not a panacea. No, it's simply bringing, let's say, a plus to conventional methodologies to make it more integrated. So I fully agree with him, but I can assure him that the national partners are currently, when you look at the, I would say, the landscape, countries are really moving fast. Countries like Kenya are already, let's say, trying genome edited products at research level. You see, this is a very emerging one. Many other countries are moving towards definitely meeting the objective of harnessing modern biotechnology. Now, the last question.
Thank you.
AU, I think Dr. Mahama will cover that about the facilities for young scientists. Thank you.
No problem. We'll talk to him in a moment. But one final one for you, Dr. Nangayo. Professor Sunday Ojo, he says, God blessed Africa with abundance of agricultural lands with high fecundity. There are controversies on the safety of GMO foods for human health. The promotion of organic products, which are usually very expensive, lends credence to this. So also is the prevalence of strange diseases plaguing Africans, which were not known before. Should Africa not promote good management of agricultural lands for improved yields rather than relying on GMO agricultural products for African food security.
Yeah, thank you, moderator, and thank you, Professor Ojo, for a very good question. In my closing remarks, I did say that biotechnology is not a panacea, and we are not advocating for biotechnology at the exclusion of all others. We are just saying that biotech is a practical tool in the big toolbox and is being harnessed to address those challenges that are not amenable to other conventional approaches. For instance, in the case of cowpea, where there is no breeding that is producing a resistant line, where insecticides are just too expensive and unaffordable, developing BT cowpea is just the most appropriate way to do this. We, of course, encourage other approaches also to come along, and also biotechnology to be harnessed to its full potential, especially in areas where conventional means are proving inappropriate. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Francis Nangayo. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Dr. Mahama Ouedraogo. We are glad to have you, sir, right now. Dr. Ouedraogo is the Director of Human Resources, Science and Technology Directorate at the AUC, and is going to be speaking to us starting now. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Joe Ageyo. I hope I had your name right.
Yes, I'm not yet a doctor, but that is a good prophecy. Thank you very much.
Yes, from my mouth to God's ears, so you will make it. Good afternoon, everybody. I stand on existing protocol on this meeting. I want to really tender my apology for being late. Unfortunately, another meeting, which was planned, took longer than expected. So all my apology. I want to take this opportunity to thank AUDA-NEPAD, ABNA, and AATF for really jointly organizing this Kalesu Juma lecture, and particularly zeroing on these important technology and emerging technologies that can really bring Africa to the next level. So I'm trying, can I share my PowerPoint?
Yes, you can.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Okay, I hope it's clear and it's visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So the title of
if you could put it maybe on presentation mode, I think it will look much bigger and better. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like my system is very slow. So it's taking much more time than Do you see it? Not yet?
No, not yet.
What about now?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, good. So the title is Harnessing Biotechnology and Emerging Technology, of course, for agriculture, modernization, and transformation. The case of Africa. This is really very, very slow.
So maybe we can go back to the previous presentation mode.
Okay, I think it's going on now. This is briefly the content of what I will be addressing today. Some generality on Africa, what makes it unique, Agenda 2063, to put it within the context of African agricultural transformation, the science, technology, and emerging technology for African agriculture, African biotechnology policy discourse and conclusions. So basically, these are the key statistics of our mother Africa. You can see how they are: 6% of the world, 20% of well-imaged land with 55 countries, and it has an estimated population of 1.2, or 17.44% of the world. A population that really grows very fast, and best of all, a population in its majority being young. These are some of the the uniqueness of Africa. In terms of economic growth, it has already been said, the African continent is experiencing a long and sustained period of economic growth until the COVID has come in. Definitely will affect it, on average 6% per year. And this growth, we think it will continue if we pass the COVID pandemic. But we think that the next period could be more difficult, and it may require more complex changes, such as improved education, communication, technology connection, physical infrastructure, and market development. And to achieve that, we need, of course, research. It's very imperative for increased production and productivity. The African Development Challenge, as you can see in this slide, Africa has quite a bit of challenges that are multifaceted, interlinked, and they basically cut across borders. And we all agree that unless we join hands together, the different countries may not be able to address it if taken individually. One area of importance is agriculture, natural resource and water, energy, blue economy, digital infrastructure. Very keen to be able to move Africa to where it should be. Climate change and variability, disaster risk reduction, and of course, the SDGs, sustainable development, which of course received its contribution from the Agenda 2063, particularly the first 10 years plan. So the question is, why do we have to worry about transforming African agriculture? If you look at the earlier slide, both the challenges and also some of the statistics, it's clear that Africa has a high population growth, and it's in a situation where it has to produce more food on less land, water, chemical, and waste. It has to produce safer, healthier, and more nutritious food to ensure that it addresses some of the challenges related to health and so on. So there is therefore high expectation from agriculture in a more challenging environment. We know also that African agriculture, if we talk about it, it's an area that everybody agree that it's moving somewhere up, but it can really do a lot better compared to the other region. And one example is The campaign to retire the handheld hoe in the museum, a campaign that has been undertaken by African Union to ensure that we really work to mechanize African agriculture. Agenda 2063 loudly talk about the transformation, mechanization, and modernization of African agriculture. In its first aspiration, which is the prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development, modernization of agriculture really features very well. So that means a modern agriculture for increased productivity and production. This also means ensuring that we can have higher agricultural production and productivity. Agricultural value addition and agro business development. The question of environmental sustainability related to climate and resilience economy and communities. The blue economy for accelerated economic growth, marine resources and energy, and of course, all the aspects related to biodiversity, conservation, and sustainable natural resource management. That means that we are to be able to properly manage our water, to ensure that we have climate resilience and natural disaster preparedness and prevention, and of course, invest strongly in renewable energy. Agenda 2063 provides a certain number of strategies to really achieve the target of eliminating poverty, inequality, and hunger, both at national, continental, and regional level. And this is what is really shown in this slide. I will not go through all of these strategies because they are not new. It's pretty much well known. For example, the first one is to fully implement CAADP and sign National Agricultural Investment Plan, which are inclusive. So that naturally takes me to what CAADP is. As Africa's policy framework for agricultural transformation and wealth creation, food security and nutrition, economic growth, and prosperity for all. The first declaration of CAADP was made in Maputo. I think it was in 2003 in Mozambique. And it sets principle and broadly defined strategies to help countries to first critically review their own situation and identify investment opportunities with optimal impact and return. CAADP particularly champions reform in the agricultural sector, setting broad targets. It ensures that 6% annual growth in agricultural GDP and an allocation of at least 10% of public expenditure to the agricultural sector. Poverty and inequality reduction through its direct impact on job creation and increasing opportunities, especially for women and youth. If we make agriculture transformed and more attractive, we'll be able to retain more youth in those agricultural regions rather than seeing them in the cities and thus creating that youth bomb that we are seeing and the immigrations. Food security and improved nutrition, and of course, strengthening resilience. Although Continental in CAADP also through integrated national and regional efforts to promote agricultural sector growth and economic development. Some of the progress already made include the compact at national level in several African countries. So many have developed also the National Agricultural Investment Plan, which is a good way forward. The commitment to CAADP was further renewed at the Assembly of the AU in 2009 in Libya and reaffirmed in 2014 in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. With the adoption of the Malabo Declaration on Accelerated African Agricultural Growth and Transformation for Shared Prosperity and Improved Livelihood, thus reaffirming the impact area of this program. Now I want to talk about science and emerging technology for transforming African agriculture. So we know that we need to improve our agriculture. And we all agree that we need to transform the African agriculture. The question is, how do we do it? One of the belief is that we can push really the frontier of science and technology because it presents opportunity in all areas, including agriculture. For instance, nanotechnology is an area that can really contribute. Precision farming, space-based technology and monitoring system. It can assist in really improving productivity and reducing the risk. Provision of efficient delivery system for water, nutrient and pesticide, smart food processing, and improved seed. And by the way, if you go back down the history lane, Kwame Nkrumah already said it, that it's within the pursuit of science and technology to make even the Sahara bloom into a vast field with verdant vegetation for agriculture and industrial development. I think the PowerPoint is
and I would request also that you begin concluding, just so that we will have more conversation later in the process.
Okay. Sorry, I ate most of my time, but I didn't even get to the element on biotechnology. So I may have to just jump some of the slide to allow that to happen. Of course, I wanted to touch base on STISA, which is the Continental Strategy for Science, Technology, and Innovation. And it has a very important aspect on agricultural component, eradication of hunger, which is the first priority area on STISA. And of course, STISA called for ensuring that we have a good capacity in science and technology and put this capacity to use in terms of research and resolving the challenge that Africa is facing, and in this case, particularly in agricultural area. You have also the science agenda for African agriculture, which is championed by FARA. I will not go to all of this in the interest of time, but these are some of the area that the science agenda believe that if others could be able to achieve and resolve our problem of transforming African agriculture. So let me try to round up with the African biotechnology policy discourse. We all agree, and it was already said by the different presenters, that biotechnology is a tool, it's an option that can really assist into resolving some of our challenges. It should be considered among other options, and particularly when you are so challenged like in Africa, you cannot just single out an option and throw it away. Unless it's something really drastic, I don't think it will be fair to ourselves. In the 90s, the international negotiation on the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety was stalled, and the AU was engaged at that time in the development of the AU model law. In Maputo, the third session of the Executive Council took a decision which basically stated that it stresses the need for member states to equip themselves with the necessary human and institutional capacity to deal with biosafety issues within the framework of implementing the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. They also urged member states in abiding by the provision of the Cartagena Protocol to use the African model law in biosafety prepared by the AU Commission as a basis for drafting the national legal instrument in biosafety, taking into account, of course, the national peculiarity. Decision made at a time when the debate on safety concern on living organisms is a debate that basically started with the scientific communities and left the laboratories and get out there on the street, and it was really booming everywhere. Research, R&D on biotechnologies progressed with regulatory issues also addressed. The African model law was revised in 2011, taking into account development at the national, regional, and the AU level on emerging issues in science and technology. Further, the 16th AU Assembly decided to include biodiversity among priority at the level of the African Union. The Assembly called on the member states to become parties to the CBD. On January 2016, the Assembly decision establishing the African High-Level Panel on Emerging Technology, APET, which was directed by AUDA-NEPAD and the African Union Commission to advise member states on matter of technology prospecting, including regulatory and ethical requirements that need to be put in place for Africa to benefit from these emerging technology. We should not be left behind, of course. The summit endorsed the high-level panel report, the first report on modern biotechnology, freedom to innovate, encourage the safe application of biotechnology, systematically focusing on the 5 regions of Africa toward applying various fields of biotechnology on the priority need of the African region. There have been many cases shown here. I will not come back to it, but there have been many genetically engineered crops that are either in research or being released in African countries. There are also ongoing biological revolution, which is enabled either by synthetic biology and also gene editing technology, which was mentioned that some African countries are already leading there. So all those speak to really the importance of enhancing biotechnology development, including movement of genetic material across Africa to enable the farmers to really benefit from it. And we, like what I already said, we should not left anything really unturned. We believe that the application of new molecular biotechnology and new breeding strategies to the crops and livestock breeds of specific relevance to smallholder production system in Africa, who are basically the most vulnerable part of the African population, is really very urgent than ever given the current unpredictable weather conditions, whether it is water deficiency or attack of different pests like the locust. So with that, I think we can never overemphasize on the need for Africa to continue reflecting and paving the way politically for considering biotechnology as a tool to to transform its agriculture. So we believe for us to achieve that is to ensure that there are guidelines on the use of biotechnology in Africa is needed. We believe that the development is entrusted by the Commission to DREA, and I'm sure that IBNE is also working on it. Establishing the status of biotechnology and biosafety development and use in Africa, and of course, to determine the extent to which member states have implemented international instruments that are relevant and which also offer guiding principle on biotechnology and identify the challenges faced and offer proposal on how they can be overcome. So with that, Mr. Moderator, again, sorry for being late and sorry for taking too much time. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Mahama Ouedraogo, for your very illuminating presentation. I am sorry you probably rushed through some of it, but not to worry, because we'll still have a Q&A session where our participants will be asking questions that I'm sure will directly touch on the parts of your presentation that you may have rushed through. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a little bit running behind in terms of our time, but we will try and recover it as we go along. So I keep pleading with the presenters, please stick to the time that you have, or at least do less than you've been given. So we are going to transition very quickly into the next segment, which is for us to have a bit of a panel discussion with different people who will be tackling various aspects of the policy, regulation, discussing aspects of the research itself, deployment, utilization, and some of the challenges that come with that. So allow me very quickly, remember I said we will still have conversations, and there are also people who are already asking pertinent questions on our Q&A chat box there, so please keep doing that. Some of them you could ask directly to the panelists actually, and they could just respond online. So let me introduce the next set of panelists that we're going to have in this segment, where we are talking about the challenges of agricultural biotechnology development and opportunities for leveraging joint collaboration to promote adoption of modern biotechnology and emerging technologies in agriculture and healthcare. And the first segment is going to be on research, policy, and regulation. And so the first person I'm going to introduce in this segment is Dr. John Mukuka. Dr. John Mukuka is a seed development expert at the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, an alliance for commodity trade in East and Southern Africa. So I'm going to just introduce them very quickly, then we'll get back to Dr. Mukuka. The next person that I'm going to be bringing up here in a short while is Dr. Dorrington Ogoi. Dr. Dorrington Ogoi comes to us from Kenya and is the CEO of the National Biosafety Authority in Kenya, NBA, and is going to be talking about domesticating international biosafety protocols to enhance country-level regulatory oversight. And then finally, we are going to hear from Professor Mohamed Ishiaku, who's going to be coming to us from the Institute for Agricultural Research in Nigeria, specifically focusing on the PBR, cowpea commercialization lessons and experiences from Nigeria. So my panelists are going to give very brief presentations. I'd suggest you do even 3 minutes if you can, so that we can actually get the most out of this. So let's then get Dr. Mukuka up. I can see your presentation is already up, sir.
Thank you very much, moderator and colleagues. All protocols observed. I think I'll go straight into the issues that were asked for COMESA, to present in terms of how tenable regional organization aspiration for biotechnology policy and regulation in Africa. On this one, I'd like to say that COMESA in the last 9 years or so managed to come up with a policy on biotechnology and biosafety in 2014. And the overall goal of this is to create awareness, outreach activities, the creation of a regional biosafety risk assessment mechanism, and to build capacity, for biosafety regulation and biotechnology research. Here, I think what is critical is that through COMESA, we provided platform for all the countries, to consider, what was in their best interest. What I want to mention here is that also it's very important that we have knowledgeable people, that can equipped with the scientific facts to come up with a picture and lead the regional harmonization, which can now go into the continental process. The reason is that, sometimes with porous borders, if you're not harmonizing regionally, this means that commodity products can move freely in a known path. So, this, because of lack of data, this can lead to trade disruptions, and this can affect, the African continental free trade area. We are fortunate for COMESA that out of the 7 countries that have commercialized biotech crops, 5 of them are COMESA member states: Sudan, Eswatini, Ethiopia, Malawi, and Kenya. And it not be the sole factor, however, these results may not have been realized if COMESA didn't have the harmonized approach. So are there plans for COMESA for regional biosafety centers of excellence? The answer is yes, but this should start at national level with biosafety agencies and looking at their roles, synchronizing the various pieces of registration. And then from the harmonization point of view is that, of course, not all countries need biotech crops in the agriculture system. Therefore, regional harmonization should be done in phases, to look at those that have the harmonized system in place, or that have embraced for example, in COMESA, 5 countries that have embraced the GMO cotton and move and show the results to the other countries. And what is critical is to develop standard operating procedures, so that this can guide the experimental procedures to allow for data transportability among the member states. Last but not the least, we asked as COMESA that how can peer review be incorporated in national regulatory system? We would want to use what we have used on the seed harmonization within the COMESA, and we are hoping that with implementation at the country level, we can embrace those varieties that are GMO to be embraced, so that farmers, like for cotton, where it has so many pests and diseases, they can increase their productivity. So we have developed what is called the COMESA Biotechnology and Implementation Plan, Mutual Accountability Framework, where we have the expertise that can be put in place. Here, within the plan, which we want to implement with partners, I've seen AATF is here, where we want to establish a COMESA panel of experts. We also want to develop standard operating procedures and also have a database for risk assessors and GMO risk assessment subcommittees. This will be done in collaboration with member states, farm organizations, media, private sector, biotechnology and biosafety service providers, and civil society organizations. And this, I think, from COMESA point of view, we want to make it as practical as possible, so that with the plan that we have, because the harmonized policies that we have for COMESA, the member states we've got respect to member state decision to move. But a regional approach, I think this is the one we want to embrace in moving forward. So for now, I think, moderator, thank you very much. I would like to stop here and then wait for any more questions or discussion. Thank you very much, colleagues, for listening.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. John Mukuka there. We will very quickly now move to Dr. Dorrington Professor Dorrington Ogoi, who is the CEO of the National Biosafety Authority in Kenya, and talking about the domestication of international biosafety protocols to enhance country-level regulatory oversight, and is picking up on the question of peer reviews that Dr. Mukuka actually left it off on. So Professor Ogoi, the floor is yours.
John needs to stop sharing so that I can share. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a pleasure for me to join in this important webinar in honor of one of our great sons, Professor Callistus Juma. So I'm happy to share with you my thoughts on how we move on in terms of the domestication of the Cartagena Protocol, and of course, how it has been implemented in Kenya. Now, the national, Kenya, of course, was one of the very early signatories to the Cartagena Protocol back in 2000. It was then ratified in 2003. And of course, that was the beginning of the ratification of the international protocol. Kenya subsequently developed a biotechnology development policy in 2006. And with that, then we moved on and enacted the Biosafety Act of 2009, which actually established the National Biosafety Authority that I represent. So in addition to the Biosafety Act of 2009, we have also a number of regulations that have been developed, including contained use regulations, environmental release regulations, export, import, and transit regulations, the biosafety labeling regulations, and of course, in addition, we have a number of SOPs, guidelines, and manuals that are developed as appropriate. So contained use regulations is basically to monitor the experimentation phase, and environmental release, of course, focuses on the ultimate release of the products. Now, the object of the Act, as stated in our Biosafety Act of 2009, is essentially to facilitate responsible research and minimize risks that may be posed by the GMOs, risks to human and animal health, and also to the environment. We are also supposed to, the Act also provides that we need to ensure adequate level of protection for safe transfer, handling, and use of GMOs that may have adverse effects on the health and health to human and also the environment, and also to the environment. Now, thirdly, one of the key provisions of the Act is that the National Biosafety Authority establishes a transparent, science-based, and a predictable process for reviewing and making decisions on transfer and handling and use of GMOs. Now, the ABNI presentation highlighted some elements that would be key in functional regulatory framework, and I would like to share with you some of the things that we've established at the National Biosafety Authority that we believe progressively contribute towards functional regulatory framework. We have a very clear administrative processing of applications and an institutional arrangement. We have indeed established a transparent, science-based, and a predictable process of review. We have a decision-making process, which is finally made by the ultimate authority, that is the Board of Management. We have communication channels to communicate with our public and also relevant stakeholders, as well as communicating the decisions that we make. The authority has also established monitoring systems for compliance with approval conditions. These are monitoring for experimentation phase through to post-release monitoring. We have also established relevant capacity and within, and also in many instances, we also contract capacity. Now, this is within the National Biosafety Authority, but we have also established a roster of experts within the country that focuses on key parameters that are used during the decision-making process. Now, as an authority, since 2010, we've had 33 contained use approvals. We have carried out 14 confined field trials, and we have made decisions on 3 environmental release applications, which at different stages. Of course, one of the environmental release applications was rejected, but the leading environmental release that was approved is the BT cotton that is currently undergoing farm level trials, demonstration farms. The BT maize that was also alluded to by Francis is currently also going the national performance trials. Indeed, we do hope that the BT cotton after the farm demonstration levels will eventually reach the farmer for farm cultivation. Now, as I've already been explained, we've moved on, and the National Biosafety Authority is one of, I think, among the first authorities in Kenya, in Africa, to approve genome editing. We have actually approved 6 genome editing projects. Now, these genome editing projects are under containment within the laboratories. As many of you know, currently there's a debate about genome editing, but initially the decision of our board was that it be approved under the Biosafety Act, even as we look as alternatives of how to judiciously decide which applications need to be reviewed under Biosafety Act or otherwise. Now, of course, talking about the milestones that we've made under the regulatory framework and establishing the system, we do also have challenges that come with this technology. As many of you know, Kenya has a GMO import ban that was imposed in 2012. It still remains in force. Now, we also do have a very strong statement that has been made by our government that BT cotton is a very, very important contributing factor to the realization of the Big Four agenda under the manufacturing agenda through the revival of the textile industry. And indeed, the commercialization of BT cotton that is currently underway had to go through a cabinet decision. So the cabinet made a decision that despite the ban that was in place, they would allow the cultivation of BT cotton. And this allowed NBA then to make a final approval for environmental release of BT cotton. In that cabinet decision, there was also an indication that other crops that are in the pipeline will then be approved on a case-by-case basis. So we do believe this is progressive, although the initial ban is a hindrance or a bottleneck, but we see small gains that are being made, and we do hope that all the products that we have in the pipeline, should they move to the next phase, will indeed see the light of day. Now, of course, as we move on, we also have issues with the institutional arrangement and decision-making process. As many of you know, one of the latest issue that we have to deal with is the issue of environmental impact assessment and environmental risk assessment. Now, these are issues that are institutional, and we do believe that as we move on with our first product, the BT cotton, probably some of these issues that are still pending or are impediments to our progression will finally be addressed, and people will see that the technology has a role to play, and we need to include them in addressing the constraints of agricultural productivity as one of the options that we have. That's my last slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ogoi, for that very interesting presentation, raising key questions that I'm sure we'll return to. One of the whole thing of technology moving ahead of policy and regulation, and somehow you have to find a way to deal with that. And also the political question, which might not always agree with science. This is something that a lot of people from our Q&A chat box here have actually raised, and I hope that we can come back to it. Let me now move to Professor Mohamed Ishiaku. I think I saw him here. So he's going to give us experiences from Nigeria with regard to the PBR cowpea and what that looks like in Nigeria and possible lessons that we could carry home. Professor, please. Professor Ishiaku, if you could unmute yourself, we don't seem to be hearing you.
Yes, please.
There you go. Now we can hear you.
Okay. I'm getting my presentation to. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see your presentation as well.
So, yes, I'm going to briefly share our experience gained during the development of the BT cowpea, also known as the pod borer resistant cowpea, and the lessons therefrom. Cowpea, as you may know, is an important crop in most African countries, and specifically in Nigeria. It is one of the most important grain legumes that provide very cheap source of protein, among other things. Africa produces about 6.7 million tons, and about half of that comes from Nigeria. Unfortunately, that is still not enough for Nigeria. One of the reasons why there's deficit in Nigeria is because the productivity per hectare or per unit area is low. And causes of that can be attributed to a number of factors, but one of the important one is a pod-boring insect called maruca, which you see on the left-hand side of the photo. Is a larva that feeds on the flower bud as well as full matured flower. And if a pod grows by some luck, this is how it destroys the pod. So the resultant effect of pod borer, it can lead to up to around between 80 to 90% yield loss, depending on the intensity of infestation in the field. So attempts have been used to control the insect. The most successful one before now has been the use of insecticides, which are not only unaffordable because they're expensive, they are also environmentally, in many instances, can be very harmful. So approaches to develop host plant resistant or improved varieties with the resistance to the insect never yielded any result. So up to 15,000 accessions, for example, was evaluated by IITA, Ibadan in Nigeria, to find the source of resistance so that plant breeders can develop insect maruca resistant variety, but these were all unsuccessful. Other approaches were used, which is called wide crossing. So the only thing left is the use of genetic transformation. And for those of us who have not seen it, this is the process. A grain of cowpea is taken, and then the embryos are removed, and they are immersed in a medium for them to grow and become shoots. I'm having a little hitch here. And so I'm having a problem. Okay. And so they are grown into little shoots, and from here, full plants are developed. Like this. And then eventually you have a small young seedling or plant, and then grown into full-grown plants where pods are developed. This is basically what is called the genetic transformation. The medium in which the embryo is grown contains the gene of interest, which will be taken up. So we moved to the field or confined field trial and infested all these lines with the pot boring larva to ensure that we selected only the resistant ones. These are the results of some of the differential production between, for example, 709 is the one that has the gene, the transgene which confers resistance to pot borer, while in the middle is the conventional unimproved one. So the difference in terms of productivity is very clear. This saves farmers a lot of money from spraying. So we moved from different stages from the confined field trial and moved to multi-location trials to evaluate the performance of this newly developed material. Now, the material that turned out to be the best in terms of its resistance in breeding, you see my
So are you having some challenges with your presentation? I think your microphone is not on.
can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, yes.
Maybe you can just summarize your presentation thing as it is.
In other words, through all these stages of development, we were able to convince the Nigerian Registration Authority and the National Biosafety Management Agency on the basis of the efficacy of this new material. It was registered as a variety. So, I don't know why I'm having this problem. Let me go to I want to go to my concluding, but I am having problem with it.
Linda, I don't know if you're able to help. Do you have the presentation?
Yeah.
Or?
Can someone help me with?
Linda, are you able to do that?
Okay. Yeah, okay. So we went through all the cycles of the regulation. We were issued with a certificate of permit for environmental release. And then we involved farmers also to evaluate the performance of this new material. Eventually, on the basis of good performance, both on farmers' field and elsewhere, including rating by female farmers, it was registered as a variety in December 2019. This is the performance of the new variety, the one on the right-hand side, extreme right, and in the middle. This is one of the fields in which the Variety Release Committee members paid a visit on the spot assessment on farmers' field. And you can see the susceptible variety, even when there are very few grains formed, they are damaged, so their quality are compromised. And we went through the utilization process. There isn't any difference between conventional cowpea food products compared to the genetically modified material. So on the basis of its property and potential on farmers' field, it was registered in 2019. Now, the lessons learned is that most of the things we did was based on the political commitment of the Nigerian government and local leadership to pursue this. And we need highly trained people, individuals in science and technology, and also the communication of science itself, because of this technology is very new. People need to understand the perspective and what potential needs are there. Whenever research is being initiated of these kind of areas, the solutions must be highly impactful. For example, the pod-boring insect is very destructive in cowpea production, and that when farmers sow, right now there are demonstrations across Nigeria where farmers are daily asking for how they will get the seed because of the minimal amount of spray they will carry out, only 2 sprays instead of about 8, sometimes up to 9 sprays to get a successful cowpea. So the solution for which science is being targeted is important to have a highly impactful situation in terms of its economics. We need facilities and infrastructure, well-equipped laboratories, greenhouses and field, and then access to critical materials like consumables, the gene, and also the transformation cassette for which plant breeders can develop the new variety. And then the attendant logistics. These are very essential for this technology to be domesticated, for it to be able to solve the problem. So in conclusion, we learned that strong partnership driven by political commitment and operated by domestic skills, this is very important, to deploying genetic transformation technology has led to the development of an environment-friendly, sustainable solution to an otherwise insurmountable problem of the 80% yield reducing pod borer insect in cowpea production. Our quick summation is that every year Nigeria, if 1 million hectares of this variety is grown, Nigeria is going to save not less than 16 billion naira, which is almost $500 million or no, $250 million annually. And in terms of yield benefit is about 48 billion naira. The exchange rate, I think, is around 380 naira per dollar. So definitely, given a solution that defies most of the conventional approaches, as earlier alluded to by earlier speakers, biotechnology stands to provide a potential solution to many of our problems. And this is one instance where it has done so. So now we are at the level of selling foundation seeds at the end of this growing season, around January, February, to seed companies for them to produce. They will now produce certified seed, which farmers can grow. Companies that will participate in the production of certified seed has since been identified and have been notified. Their capacity has been assessed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ishayaku, for your presentation. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a very brief conversation with these 3 gentlemen. But remember, there's a poll that we are running there. If you can just have a look at it, you will see, and you can respond. And then we'll be giving some results during this conversation. But just some follow-up questions, because there are also many questions that are coming from participants here. And please remember that you can also ask the questions directly to the panelists, and they're already responding to a lot of questions on the platform that we have here. But Professor Ogoi, there was a point that you alluded to when you talked about the process of approving genome editing applications, and you seem to be saying that there's a whole discussion still going on, but you have applications on your desk and you have even approved some. So the question of technology going ahead of regulation, how has that been for you, and what sort of way forward can you share in terms of the emerging technologies that we'll have to deal with sometimes even before there is a proper comprehensive regulatory framework?
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you for the question. The history of even genome editing or genome GMOs or LMOs actually started with the development of the technology before regulations came on board. So it's not strange. I think it is almost a practice. With GMOs, it is the people who started it who even decided that, you know, we need to regulate it, and then regulators came on board. Now, with regards to genome editing, of course, it's a technology that is moving so fast. I think as we were thinking about it, we got our first application way back in 2015, actually. And of course, it did not really fit in the definition of a GMO, but as many of you know, some of the genome editing products will fall under the GMO regulation. So initially, our board decided that let's regulate it under containment as we finalize our guidelines on how it should be handled. So indeed, for containment, we've used our containment regulations. But going forward, as we discuss the regulations that are being discussed, the guidelines, there will be some exemptions. But of course, there are some genome editing that will continue to be regulated under GMO Act. So for us, unfortunately, we had to deal with it that way. And like I mentioned, we already have actually 6 approvals that are genome editing projects under containment. And going forward, as we move on, maybe some of them will be exempted from regulation once we have our guidelines approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Mukuka, the whole question of regional harmonization, I see a question that came here from John Kioli saying that there is a correlation between biosafety and climate change. Agriculture affects and is affected by climate change. He says his key takeaway is that regional harmonization of biosafety policies is key in the region. And yet there are all these national priorities. You said that each country has to deal with that. How do you account for that? That there is that need, for example, given that climate change as a challenge to agriculture is actually not confined to one country, and yet each country will have its own individual priorities, including some that may not readily deploy biotechnology in their crop management.
Yes, good afternoon once again. Yeah, so from the experience of COMESA, you know, regional harmonization is key because of the nature of the, some of the products, that move across the COMESA member states. But what I meant in my presentation from one of the questions that came here is that if some of the countries that have developed this policy are, they're not ready. So we're looking at those countries that are ready are supposed to be supported on, so that those that are coming behind can learn, and then we can move together. Because without the regional harmonization, from the COMESA point of view, we know that even the continental free trade area will be affected, in terms of their agricultural productivity or some of the products that will be produced, for intra-Africa trade. And so the harmonization is quite key. And I want to just to give you some of the experiences that we have done from the seed harmonization, which we have. This is my area that I've done in the last 10 years or so. Is that it's critical to move with all the countries. But when you have a policy that is in place, that will make sure that all the interests of the country is also embraced, so that there is transparency in moving forward. Because sometimes there's lack of information, there's lack of expertise, and that can affect some of the countries in moving forward. But as I've said, the plan that I've put in place is to make sure that the 5 countries in the COMESA member states, that have embraced BD cotton and some of the things that have been done by AATF, some of the varieties, that are drought resistant and the GMO, I think those ones we need to support them so that they can move forward. and other countries, can, appreciate the benefits that are coming from those technologies, that farmers can be able to use and see with their own eyes.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Mohammed Ishiaku, I'm coming to you because there is a whole question of how do you convince the policymakers that this makes sense, that this one will be useful to the farmers? Because from the poll that we are running even right now, one of the main reasons behind the slow adoption of biotechnology, according to the people who are voting so far, 41% of them actually cite insufficient political will, that there is some wheels that need to move at that level. And I combine that with a question that has come from one of our participants, Judith Akolo, who says biotechnology is very important, especially now that climate variability is very much with us and land acreage can no longer allow us to continue farming acres and acres of land. Why has it remained a very difficult for policy planners in Africa to accept that biotechnology is the way to go?
Yes, thank you. I think how we were able to win that level of political commitment in Nigeria has to do with how the project is started in Nigeria. Right from the onset, the political machinery in Nigeria were involved, and then everyone seemed to have appreciated the insurmountability of the problem at stake, which needed to be solved. And so that's the secret. I emphasize the need to focus on those areas that will make an impact on the economy very quickly. And scientists have to be able to be innovative enough to be able to bring that out to policymakers so that they can see it. So in my opinion, that is how we got the political will and the commitment of the leadership that allowed us to scale through to this level. I hope it has answered the question. We have had a number of engagements in different fora through OFAB and then on our own at our institutional level in different places. One thing is that people must not be tired of explaining and explaining and explaining so that we are thoroughly understood. I don't want us to go with the perception that I have something that is excellent and it is just only you who know how excellent it is and you haven't done much to. So communication, communicating the different stakeholders into understanding it and making it very practical is very pertinent.
Thank you very much, Professor Ogoi. There is one more question before we move on from Dr. Emmanuel. Says, thank you for your good presentation. Regarding the cabinet decision in Kenya to possibly consider other crops for biotech applications on a case-by-case basis, do you know what major information or criteria is likely to drive favorable considerations by the cabinet?
Thank you very much, Joe. So essentially, risk assessment, as most of the panelists know, is on a case-by-case basis. It's done based on the crop and the event. So case-by-case is something that we are used to. Now, what we probably will be clarified going forward is whether after the case-by-case evaluation of the product, it will then be subjected to a cabinet decision before environmental release can be done. In a very optimistic situation, the decision by the Board of Management will be considered as final, but I think we are waiting for further clarity, and we do hope that once the BT cotton lays the foundation of the technology on the ground, probably the environment will revert back to the normal situation where the decision of the National Biosafety Authority will be final so that the products are released. For now, it's wait and see, and we do hope that based on the cotton success, we'll be able to move on in a normal situation where the authority has the final say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Ogoi. And gentlemen, I have to promise that we'll come back later on, because
okay. Justina, it looks like we have dropped, Joe has dropped for a bit. Okay, he's back.
sorry, I do not know what technology that was, but thank you very much. So I'm saying that we're going to introduce our next panel, which is going to talk about deployment and utilization. And I was about to say that from our poll, 39% of you so far believe that negative perceptions are to blame, so to speak, for the slow progress of biotechnology in Africa. And that's something I think that will feature prominently in the panel discussion that we're about to start. So allow me to introduce, first of all, Dr. Edgar Traore. He's from Burkina Faso, where he's from the National Agriculture Research Institute, INERA, in Burkina Faso, and he's going to be giving us perspectives from Burkina Faso with regard to BT cotton and efforts by OFAB to get the technology back into the farmers' hands. He will tell us about that, the challenges and so on. And then we would have Patience Koku from Nigeria, who's going to be giving us a perspective from the farmers' standpoint, because she is directly involved in farming. And then we will have Nancy Mushiri, who is going to be speaking to us from OFAB, which is Open Forum for Agricultural Biotechnology in Africa, run by AATF. So she'll be giving us an idea of how shaping public perceptions on agricultural biotechnology has happened, or the challenges thereabouts and experiences from across Africa using the OFAB platform. And then we will have agricultural biotechnology, the needs from the needs from the private sector, because we will need to have the voice of private sector in this. And for this, we will get Lekeso Moremoholo from Likerabello Samachale from South Africa. And then finally, we have Mohammed Adams Nasiru, who is coming to us from the Center for Initiative and Food Security and Environment, speaking about ethical agricultural biotechnology communications views. So let's just kick this off by introducing Dr. Traore. If you can just take the microphone, please, and make your presentation. And please keep this presentation short. I suggest we do 5 minutes if we have to really go on, so that we leave more time for discussion. I'm sure our participants will really appreciate that. Dr. Traore. I thought I saw him. We could move on, I think, and do you have Dr. Traore? No, okay, let's move then to Patience Koku, who's from Replenish Farms in Nigeria. Then we will try and get Dr. Traore.
Okay, hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here today and to lend my voice to the conversation. I'm the CEO of Replenish Farms in Nigeria. I'm also a member of the Global Farmer Network, and I serve on the advisory board of Cornell Alliance for Science. Now, from a farmer's perspective, I would share my journey and my challenges. I would say that growing food in Africa, our food systems have so many challenges, but farmers experience those challenges, I would say, firsthand. And I've experienced a lot of these challenges in relation to pests and diseases. And one of the most prominent, or two or three of the most prominent that we experience are the fall armyworms, the maruca, which Professor Ishaku spoke at length about, and also the bollworms with BT cotton. On our farm currently, yesterday I was hoping I would share a video. We currently have PBR cowpea, the newly released cowpea growing in our fields, and we're doing that seed production for IAR. And we have an excellent experience where we are actually seeing that it's possible to grow cowpea without the usual challenges of having to spray. Professor said 8 times, but in our experience, it can take up to 10 or more times in a season, sometimes way over 10 times. And so we've had this wonderful experience where we already have the crop at an advanced stage. We have pods formed, and we haven't done much spray. We've only done just a regular insecticide spray to get rid of regular insects. And we also have one of the first crop growing of BT cotton in Nigeria. And we are almost at pod stage, and we are also experiencing that is resistant to the bollworms. Now, what I would say to the technology is that Africa has food shortages, and we need to play catch up. We also don't have the liberty of being able to, at this point, delay the urgency we require for approvals for BT. These have to be prioritized because we do have to feed our people. And if we are not able to do, to use all the tools in the box, BT is a major tool for Africa to be able to grow more food with less. We need to have urgent interventions. Countries have to be able to waive a lot of bottlenecks to allow this technology to get to farmers. Farmers really are not this conversation and these arguments are not held in farmer fields. Farmers will grow seed that that is safe and that will also help them to improve their own health and livelihoods. A farmer who needs to spray 15 times as opposed to one who needs to spray two times, who would be healthier? You know, and so we would like to see a situation where everybody, all the collaborations and partnerships move from a lot of talk. We've seen excellent progress with the collaborations with AATF and IAR in getting cowpea to farmers. There have been excellent collaborations in Nigeria with getting the BT cotton, and we're looking at revamping our textile industries very soon. I think that for me, I grew the BT cotton, and with the cowpea, they were the easiest crop to grow because we really basically had to do nothing out of the usual challenges that we would normally have to mitigate against. And so I would like to call to action for me would be all the partners, all the collaborators, all hands on deck to ensure that Africa can deploy these technologies as quickly as possible. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for keeping it short and comprehensive. And I'm sure there'll be some questions or clarifications or comments from our distinguished participants this afternoon. So let me bring on board now Nancy Mushiri. Nancy, as I indicated, is from AATF, and she's going to give us experiences in terms of public perceptions from the point of view of Open Forum for Agricultural Biotechnology in Africa. Nancy, the floor is yours. Nancy, is everything okay?
Yes, coming together. Just a second.
Yeah, we saw your presentation for a second. I think it's coming back. There you are.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Joe. Sorry about that, colleagues, and thank you very much, Joe, for this opportunity to contribute to this very, very interesting discussion. I hope you can hear me clear.
Yes, affirmative.
Okay, thank you. So I'll be talking about public perceptions on biotechnology, and we do know that public perceptions, for example, risk perception, goes beyond the scientific facts. And I think Professor Mohamed Ishiaku alluded to that, although from the positive angle. It also touches on matters of ethical concerns. For example, is a scientist playing God? And also touches on social issues, for example, the cost of seed. And so it is not just quantifiable or real risks that are at question. Public perception is reality in as far as the public is concerned. So to effectively shape public perception for agricultural biotechnology, trust building is critical. And in order to do that, we have to be ready to address people's fears and to also respect people's values, because this is about people at the end of the day. For example, people fear what they do not know or do not understand, so we need to attend to that. People fear, their fear increases with feelings of no control over participation in the process. What's going on? Is everything very dark? The fear is higher, in fact, where low trust is involved. For example, the organization that is involved, the institution that is involved, the entity, the partnership, who is involved in this thing, who is forming this thing, who is bringing this thing to us. And people's values are what the everyday kind of values that people have. For example, health, people value health, people value financial security, and we've just heard that from the farmer. People value environment, people value quality of life, safety, and in fact, people value status quo to some extent. So you'll hear people asking you, why should I change from this seed to that seed when this one can work? And I saw a question similar to that. In addition, people's decisions are influenced by their own judgments, their own values, their own expertise and interests. So we need to take that into account when we are taking up public perception shaping. So it's not always facts, and it's not always expert opinion that stands out to help with shaping perceptions. And in fact, we've got influence groups, the pressure groups that also influence decision-making or how we make our decisions. Then we also have to contend with this issue of numerous information sources everywhere and opinions. So much so that now it is said that the currency of the new economy is attention, not money. So how are we going to get our message clear and quick to the people that need to hear it so that they hear us clearly and with intention? So building support for agricultural biotechnology is critical in order for us to really shape and inform decision-making and how people view and think about biotechnology and specifically GMOs. So the Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology is a community platform that is present in 7 African countries currently. So we call them the OFAB country chapters. It is in Kenya. The OFAB Forum is also in Uganda. The OFAB Forum is also in Tanzania and in Ethiopia. We also have a country chapter in Nigeria. We also have a country chapter in Ghana, and we also have a country chapter in Burkina Faso. Now, the Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology is committed to building, increasing knowledge, awareness, and understanding of biotechnology, in addition to contributing to the enabling environment. So those two-pronged approach. And we try and utilize awareness and knowledge sharing, basically educating ourselves and our people on what this thing is all about, and then carrying out dialogue and conferencing, trying to bring people together to discuss issues of interest or issues of concern, and just putting that out. So we would have meetings, let's say monthly meetings. We used to have that quite a bit, whether in the towns or in the centers back home. And then also we participate in engagements, and engagements are very key, specifically to onboard policymakers, decision makers, because that is where the crux of the matter is. So discussing or engaging them on decision, influencers, decision issues. We've seen some progress, quite a bit of progress actually, in the 14 years that OFAB has been on the ground. A lot of that progress in this whole field has already been reported by the ABNI colleagues and also mentioned by others, but basically we've seen changes in the policy environment. We have seen biosafety laws enacted in places. We've seen biosafety bills passed, for example, in Uganda, even though it is not yet assented by the president. We have seen release of GM products that has been talked about by previous colleagues. We have also seen an increase in demand for GM products in some countries through petitions by farmers, whether in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Uganda also we saw that. We have also seen a huge increase in favorable media mentions, so much so that we've seen an increase even in interest in journalists being interested in this subject of biotechnology. We have also received diversified support towards biotechnology over the period, whether from policy level, politicians, farmers, civil society. And what is most impressive also, we have seen biotech stakeholders coming together in the countries to address issues related to biotechnology. I have quite a number of key lessons to share with you on what OFAB has seen in the different countries. You've got that slide that I'll share with you. I will not go through that. I'll just go through 4 that I feel are key and important. One is that, and this was alluded to by other speakers also, is that government-led and country-specific process of informing its publics about biotechnology is important. This is because this will give us buy-in, it will give us ownership, networking and collaboration, and more critically, country focus. Secondly, that we need to have targeted strategic action. This is what will give us value for money for any investment made, because this will give us attention to the issue. What is the issue in Kenya, in Uganda? What is the issue in Nigeria? And it will also help us focus on whether it is policymakers, politicians, farmers, etc. Capacity strengthening is continuous. You heard that even from Professor Ishiaku. We need to build capacity of ourselves through trainings, through exposures, through seeing is believing tours, and even sharing knowledge products. ABNI has indicated to us they have enormous amounts of knowledge material. Storytelling and media collaboration is important because we need to share our experiences, or we need to bring farmer experiences like that of Koku or other people in South Africa or in Burkina Faso, bring them to equal to the other farmers for them to see. I would like to end with this statement, if you'll allow me, Joe, that the challenge of delayed release of agricultural biotechnology products in Africa is more a challenge of low political support than of research and development. And that is where the action should be directed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nancy. And I think our participants who are voting seem to agree with your last statement, because nearly half of them believe that insufficient political will is a reason why there is slow adoption of biotechnology on the continent. But I wonder, Nancy, before I go to our next speaker, what do you think about the fact that 36% or something like that of our participants here believe negative perceptions are the reason why we're having this slow adoption of biotechnology in Africa? You seem to have covered quite some ground with OFAB. What is your response to this perception that negative perceptions are to blame for the slow adoption?
It's Joe, that would be a yes and a no response, because where the biotech issue is right now is more reliant on the political decision making. So therefore, it is more a political decision process than it is one of views by the public. However, how the political situation is being impacted to make the decision or not to make the decision right now is because perhaps the people they depend on for votes or depend on for guidance on what to do have or harbor negative perceptions for the technology. So it is two-edged. We have to work in tandem, and that is why we need actually concerted efforts to work with people, all the other people, the publics, yourself, myself, and everybody else, to try and change our perception of biotechnology so that we can all send positive messages to our politicians. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, also, perhaps the politicians also and the policymakers need to allow the systems in place to actually do their work. We've heard from ABNI that the policy systems, the regulatory, the laws, the policy, the NBAs, national biotechnology, biosafety systems are in place. Can they be allowed to also do their work without any political interference? So it's a balancing act, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. You make an excellent point there about the nexus between political will and what they might believe the public thinks about this. And I think that's a good place to transition to the private sector, which is waiting in line basically to receive this. And sometimes the progress is not as fast as they would like. And so we are going to hear now from Leketso Moremaholo, who's joining us from South Africa. She's from Likera Bello Samachale. Leketso, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Greetings from South Africa. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yes, you are speaking to Leketso Moremaholo from South Africa, representing Dikarabelo Samachale. I'm the CEO and the founder of the company. Dikarabelo Samachale the CEO used to be working with ARC as a researcher, and I was working with the WEMA project, whereby the TELA products have been made. And when my contract ended, I decided to continue and deploy the product. There are several major limiting problems for crop production, especially for smallholder farmers, like drought, pests, poor soil fertility, inability to buy fertilizer, and inability to buy certified seed. And in most cases, certified seed is the one which is you can have the best of the best seed. So thanks for the presentation. Uploading the presentation. So in order for the farmers not to lose their crops, we have to upgrade our game. So when upgrading our game, what do we do? Because like I'm saying, there has been this problem of fall armyworm, apart from the one which we had already had of stem borers. So the TELA project assisted us with the good product, which the farmers are not spraying their maize crop, but their crop is protected. And you can see from our coming slides that you can be able to have the best crop without spraying. So we have licensed the traded hybrids with AATF. So how do we deploy this TELA or the GMO products? We do radio programs, we do demonstrations, field demonstrations, we hold field days, and we do agricultural shows and workshops so that the farmers can know about the technology and how to use it, so that it cannot lose resistance within a short space of time, because that is very important. And we make sure that we really, really do good stewardship, because if we don't do good stewardship, we can honestly lose our good materials. And we make sure that, because we are concentrating on the smallholder farmers, we are making sure that the smallholder farmers have easy access of seed. It should be closer to them, which means they should be the small outlets which are having the product closer to them, instead of them going to town to buy them. And the packaging, since the smallholders have got small space, we start from 500 grams up until 25 kgs, depending on the demand. But we must be aware that South Africa has started using, especially with maize, since 2009. So for now, the products are already there, though they have been used by the commercial farmers mostly. And for now, in South Africa, there's BT only, Roundup Ready only, plus Roundup and BT, which is BR. And the farmers prefer BR because they don't have to spray for the insect pests, and they can use Roundup to control their weeds. So it is very beneficial to them. So for deployment, what should be done? There are some hurdles faced by the private sector, though. That is inadequate funding, because once you are lacking funding, you cannot do as many marketing promotions as you like to. You cannot do as many demos as you like to, and seed production is very expensive. But we, in a way, have the way out. So we have to make sure that, apart from facing the hurdles and sitting down and say there's nothing here, we can't go, we go, the struggle continues, we go, starting by convincing the farmers. If you can see, there's a information there on the slide shown, whereby we teach them about refugia. What is this refugia? Refugia is non-BT maize, which helps the maize not to have a build-up resistance in a short space of time, like the butterflies or the moths from the BT maize, which survives, which don't die after eating the BT maize. If they mate with the non-BT, they will definitely not breed the resistant moths, so that technology can be working. So we always urge our farmers to start with the small package planting, which has got a refuge, and we operate by bag in a bag. We use bag in a bag with a small bag inside a big seed bag, because we don't want them to say, I didn't have that non-BT maize, I only bought the BT. So they plant.
Please, if you could start finishing, we are running out of time. Thank you.
Yes, we'll start by planting the small bag, and then after the small bag, we make sure that even inside there is a small pamphlet which shows them how to plant it. And we have got good testimonies from the farmers saying that they are benefiting from this BT products, especially after the fall armyworm problem. And they are saying the packaging which they are having for now is suitable. And if I can conclude, I will say, I will quote from Dr. Norman Borlaug that the only way that the world can keep up with food production is by improvement of science and technology. He even went on in 2000 saying, the world has the technology to feed on a sustainable basis 10 billion people.
Are we having some challenges?
Looks like.
Okay. As we try and, because we will need to move on then. Linda, are you able to help us with the screen so that we can actually go to the last presenter and see if we can get her in the process? Okay, Mohammed Adams Nasiru, are you in the house? Mohammed Nasiru, I think I saw him here. It seems your mic is not on. Mohammed? So we seem to be having a challenge with both Mohammed and Leketso. If you allow me, we will just have some quick responses here, because I can see that we have many people who probably wanted to contribute to our discussion that is going on. There have been many comments, and I think that it is only fair that we actually go ahead and get some of the people to speak. I don't know if Dr. Emmanuel or Cogbenin is here.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so as we wind down here, I mean, I know you've been listening throughout. As we begin to wind down here, what's your takeaway from this segment where we are talking about deployment and we are talking about utilization and the challenges therein?
Okay, thank you very much. It's been an exciting event thus far with all the presentations made already. And I think for this particular segment, I mean, it speaks to very strong points outside science. And from the speakers' comments in their presentation, you still see that beyond policies and beyond research, there are still strong things to look at. And Nancy did point out a number of good things. And you could see the private sector person who was speaking just now also pointing out to a number of things. So the issue here for me will be beyond regulatory issues. Do we have really sufficient policies to address all those challenges, especially in deployment and utilization? Do we have all the policies in place? For example, you could not talk of policies without talking about good funding to implement whatever those policies are addressing. And I feel that, like Nancy said, the answer is neither yes nor no, because neither yes or no, because if you look at the issues involved, I think the political will come from somewhere. The politicians need to see what is involved. And even if the politicians have interests they are trying to protect, what are these interests? Those are some of the new things we need to address. Some of them are entrepreneurs do, and they have their own preference. But I have seen from earlier speakers that there were issues, and the questions asked also raised issues. We need to understand exactly what biotech is about. Biotech has multifarious sides to what it represents. Now, one person asked a question to say, why don't we do something about land? That means about land management to improve productivity. But that is not the question. Your land does not substitute the genetics. In genetics, there's what you call ideotypes. Ideotypes means the best form of say, for example, like say we are talking about plant. If we're talking about plant, we have ideotypes that represent the ideal kind of thing you want. But oftentimes, genetics in nature doesn't exist that way. And so you need to recombine some genes in an effective way that gives you a precise measure of what you want to achieve. So don't let us look at biotech as something always substituting what already exists. That is not true. And you can see from the other presenter, the private sector, they were talking of the Roundup there for weeds, they're talking of BT for some insects and so on. So they need to get that. And that's one thing I wanted to make very clear. The second thing I also took into consideration was the aspect of the demand. I think Nancy also spoke about demand. All right, how do we boost demand for biotech? And I think that the issue there is that the farmers we have today are still subsistence farmers. So it's not agribusiness driven. Now, if it's agribusiness driven, all right, you need to be competitive. And if you are competitive, you want to get the best things that will help reduce your cost of production, that will make you enter the market with ease and compete with any other competitor. So those are the things that are key problems. So if we succeed in turning our farmers into entrepreneurs, then they begin to see the need to do things differently. But in the subsistence setting, they produce for food and then they sell whatever they have. So that business orientation is missing, and biotech does help you to address that. So the other thing is also some countries basically can't afford. Biotech is expensive in terms of development, but the value that comes with it is what compensates for that cost of development. Now, many countries may not be able to do that. That is why I don't know whether it was Ogoyi or someone who was saying that we need to do a basic introduction of biotech to countries. For example, if we can buy transportability, if we can introduce transportability, those who are rich can take it up, all right? And then those who are not rich may not be ready to say, can we share your data and bring that in on board and see how that product can now be delivered in those smaller countries. So that is another component I could glean from the discussion we are doing here. And I agree, not many people will to do that. But there is also this dimension of, at the rec levels, I've been in meetings where they talk of ownership. What is the question of problem around ownership? And that is another thing we have to do. And I think farmers do get worried to say, we will be displaced. And that is why the AATF model comes ready and handy. The AATF model says, we get these technologies royalty-free, and we will make it available. It shall be in your hand, and nobody shall hold you to intellectual property rights issues. And this is what big companies cannot do. So I guess that is one concern they have around ownership, to say, well, I don't know how you call it, whether food security or food sovereignty, but they want to make sure that you don't give us this food and tomorrow you take it away from us. And that is the role, the most important role AATF brings into picture, to say, we are ready to help you, strengthen you, and without threat or fear. And the antis have explored that fear factor, all right, extensively in a way that people are not sitting on the fence. So it's going to be a multifarious approach to addressing that. But I'm not saying that what is being done today is not okay, but we need to see how to interconnect all those things in the same way like I was talking about policies. We may have policies. How well are these policies interlinked as to solve the problem? You can't tell me to say, I'm allowed to do something, but you don't give me the money to do it. And so that's the problem in research sector, in the private sector, and even the opportunity to effectively use those applications on the field. That means talking about farmers. So those are the key things I feel that we need to find out those little gaps that exist at the moment, that if we put them in place, then it will connect all the great efforts that is being done as presented here today. So those are the key things I will say.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very quickly, I noticed that Michael Abaton, you're in the house, and Michael Abaton, he heads the Biosciences Center, I think, at the International Institute for Tropical Agriculture in Ibadan, and is the deputy head also of the organization in West Africa, and he is going to be responding. I'd like you to get your thoughts about what you're hearing. There is a thread that has come around that the potential is immense, and there is need to move that to reality. And there's progress that has been made, obviously, but everybody here seems to be saying there's still bottlenecks, there's still hurdles that remain. So in the ensemble of everything that you've had this evening, please give us in 3 minutes what your perspective are.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, good.
All right. Yeah, I want to talk mainly about research, but before I come to that, I want to also comment that what I found in giving talks in various universities in Nigeria is there is a real issue even at that level in terms of, if you like, sentiment, which is basically anti-GMO and has very major concerns. And I found that in students and also in staff of universities. So I think that we should realize also that, there's an issue. It's not just with the general public, but actually within universities, in students and staff who are getting lectures, giving lectures on biological topics. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. But I also want to talk more about the research side of things at IITA. Yes, we are carrying out research in genome editing, but I think we increasingly need to realize that biotechnology in the sense of transgenics is very much intertwined with genomics, and in terms of research, etc., they go hand in hand. So we also need to look at what is in place in terms of research, in terms of networks, in terms of capacity development for genomics. That includes next generation sequencing, it includes studies of gene function. All these things are very important when we start to think about gene editing and so forth, and other applications which are coming down the line. So I think basically my message is, let's also consider that wider arena of research and capacity development, which will increasingly underpin transgenic technologies or gene editing technologies, which is to say genomics. Bioinformatics also hasn't been mentioned much, but it's very crucial if we're really going to make strong progress in some of these areas. Genomics, bioinformatics, the use of molecular markers is important in breeding programs. The transgenic element, as we heard with regard to cowpea, is only one element of breeding and deployment. So we need to bring in all these other elements as well. And of course, that includes strengthening capacity in conventional plant breeding also. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Michael Abaton. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, we would have been ending completely, but I see Mohammed Nasir is not only on, but his picture is also on. So I'm a bit embarrassed to deny him a chance to speak, but I'm going to ask him to stick to just one slide if you were going to project anything, but at any rate, let's not do anything more than 3 minutes, just because you're here now and we really have to move on. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, we hear you,
Good
sir.
afternoon.
All the presenters for doing their best to get us there. And after listening to all of them, it gave me another eye-opener with regards to the use and protection of agricultural biotechnology. I think all in all, what we need to do as people, we have to look at the challenges ahead and also abide by some of the programs we design for ourselves. One of them is agricultural biotechnology. We have observed in recent past the kind of upheavals in some of our countries, African countries, mainly because there was shortage of food in some of these countries. There was hunger. And as you all recall, the late legendary Bob Marley said, a hungry man is an angry man. And so we had a lot of insecurity in our countries. And so that prompted African leaders to come together to look at what they can do best to reduce this food insecurity. That is why we have the Malabo and the Maputo declarations, where African leaders agreed to commit 10% of their budgeted resources to support agricultural development in view of the looming hunger in Africa. And so all this talk about biotechnology is a way of addressing some of the challenges. I remember some people said it's not the panacea to all the challenges we face, but it's going to help in reducing poverty in Africa. As a farmer, what we need to do is to have confidence and then have trust in our scientists, because their core mandate is to come up with new innovations that they will use to help the agricultural sector. And so if they come out with good ideas, new ideas, that is going to propel Africa to a level where all of us will feel food secured. I think they need our backing. But what is going to happen is that we need to intensify our sensitization and education on agricultural biotechnology. I know OFAP has done a lot, but a lot more needs to be done. Some of us from the word go were antis. We didn't want to hear anything concerning agricultural biotechnology until our own brothers and uncles who were part of these scientists engage us deeply to allay our fears of agricultural biotechnology. And that is where we have started appreciating the need for us to support and have confidence building in our scientific community, especially the food scientists, so that if we give them this kind of support, encouragement, endorse whatever they do, a lot more of interventions will come. That will go a long way to help us have food security in the continent. All of us agree, even childhood, when we were children, our primary school teachers used to tell us agriculture is the backbone of our economies. Up to date, we are still talking about that, but we still have a myriad of challenges that we need to address to get ourselves the needed food security in our respective countries, so that when that happens and we have this kind of confidence in the scientists, we are going to go a long way to have our food security and even import food to other parts of the world. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mohamed Nasiru, because you are ending this on a positive note that you used to be on the other side, so to speak, and you got to a point, spoke more to scientists, got to engage and understand And now, from everything I have heard from you, you actually are a great advocate of this technology of the continent. So thank you very much for ending our deliberations on such an inspirational and positive note. So ladies and gentlemen, we are at that point where we need to take this home. We have been here for some time, and a number of people here have indicated some of the things that you'd like to see going forward, and those have been compiled into what we are going to do as our call to action from this meeting that we are having this afternoon. And so I know that there are many people who would have wanted to give comments, questions. Quite a number, of course, have already been answered by our panelists directly. And I think that that is what this was about, for us to engage as much as possible. But you and I would agree that there is only so much that you can do on such an important, such a cross-cutting, multifaceted issue as biotechnology within the time that we had. So thank you very much for all your contributions. And I do hope that we can keep this discussion going on in our various spaces, in our various spheres of influence. Okay, so this is what we are going to go home with as our call to action, based a lot, obviously, totally on what you have said, taking us from the history of this all the way to where we are now, and some of the things really that have to be done for us to say that we have clearly made a mark, we have clearly moved the needle with this meeting that we had today. So call to action for collaboration to support agricultural biotechnology. And our theme has been enhancing political will and action essential for agricultural biotechnology and emerging technologies towards Africa's rural economic transformation on this 28th day of October 2020. Now, preamble goes like, since 2003, the commitment of African leaders to the realization of the CAADP goals has been unequivocal. This commitment was reaffirmed in 2014 with the adoption of the Malabo Declaration on Accelerated African Agricultural Growth and Transformation for Shared Prosperity and Improved Livelihood. Other key stakeholders, such as the private sector and development partners, also committed to align to CAADP. And to sustain this momentum, African leaders resolved to promote programs that would generate a critical mass of technological expertise in targeted areas to exploit the high growth potential from biotechnology to develop Africa's rich biodiversity, improve agricultural productivity, and develop healthcare products through the NEPAD Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPAD framework. Despite the considerable potential of biotechnology to address socio-economic development challenges, its uptake and use has been painfully slow. Investment in agricultural biotechnology research and development remains unpredictable, with the majority of countries lagging and only a few crops advancing to commercialization. AATF and AUDA-NEPAD organized this meeting to reflect on progress, assess the challenges, and develop a joint plan of action to enhance political will, efforts, and actions in advancing agricultural biotechnology and emerging technologies for rural socio-economic transformation in Africa. The participants at the high-level consultative meeting deliberated on the call by the African leaders to integrate and put science, agricultural biotechnology, and emerging technologies at the center of development and development planning for rural transformation in Africa. We, the participants at the high-level consultative roundtable meeting on agricultural biotechnology in Africa, therefore, welcome with appreciation many efforts and initiatives at local, national, and regional levels that are promoting agricultural biotechnology and other emerging technologies and encourage their integration into the national development frameworks for sustainability. We reaffirm the commitment to work in partnership in promoting and enhancing agricultural technology and emerging technologies to support the socio-economic development in Africa towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. We recognize the efforts and commitments by African Union, AU member states, African Union Development Agency, AUDA-NEPAD, regional economic communities, and development agencies to enhance agricultural biotechnology development through regional and national investments and incentivizing the enabling environment through regional integration. We reiterate that while there is progress in agricultural biotechnology development, noticeable gaps remain in enhancing its optimal utilization to enable Africa to realize maximum benefits to transform rural economies. Our call to action, therefore, AATF, AUDA-NEPAD, respective partners and participants are encouraged to continue to support efforts by the African Union member states, regional economic communities, and development agencies to, 1, raise awareness and increase knowledge through public engagement with a view to changing the narrative about agricultural biotechnology by focusing on its benefits as food security, nutrition, climate resilience, preservation of biodiversity, and rural, social, and economic transformation. 2, to enhance collaboration with media, civil society, in accordance with the relevant provisions of the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety to improve public communication, education, and participation. 3, to strengthen and harmonize biotechnology policies and biosafety regulations towards the creation of sustainable enabling environments for biotechnology development in Africa. 4, to hold annual and special consultative meetings as the need arises in order to deliberate on emerging issues with a view to proactively addressing issues besetting biotechnology to enhance agricultural development. 5, to expand the agricultural biotechnology partnerships, networks, and alliances to actively engage and integrate the development agencies, non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, policy and decision makers, and social movements, as well as private sector in deliberations to enhance knowledge and capacity in biotechnology. 6, to support and strengthen South-South and North-South collaboration in research, capacity strengthening, including seed systems and science, technology and innovation development programs. And 7, to continue to support the value chain system of biotechnology products from research to commercialization. Our call to action on this 28th day of October 2020. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, allow me therefore to thank each one of you for the time that we've had together. I think that we've had useful deliberations. As I indicated, there wasn't nearly enough time. There was never going to be to deliberate on all the issues and come up with an exhaustive conversation. But be that as it may, I think all of you have been fantastic in the comments, questions, and general participation that you have had here. So right now I would go into the wrap-up session and the closing remarks. I would like to call right now Dr. Dennis Tetere, I think he's still in the house. If you could just come and take us from here, and then we will also have a representative from AUDA-NEPAD.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe, for handling this business to that successful to the end. Colleagues, at this late hour, I don't have many words, but only words of appreciation. As we come to the end of this meeting, I commend you all for having made time out of your busy schedules to attend this important meeting. I appreciate the level of, appreciate the level of commitment to biotechnology agenda as evidenced by the level of attendance and active participation. Dear participants, allow me to reiterate on the need to sustain the biotech conversation between AUDA-NEPAD and AATF, more so with AATF plans to host a major Africa-wide science, technology, and innovation summit in 2021, and where all of you will be invited. I want to confirm AATF's commitment to implement the actions as agreed and read out by Joe, and also the joint of work plan between AATF and AUDA-NEPAD and other partners as they'll be identified. As I close, I want to extend my vote of thanks and appreciation to AUDA-NEPAD for the partnership with AATF. I want to extend the same to our keynote speakers, to the panelists, and to you all for the active participation during the meeting. I would not be fair to stop here without thanking our facilitator, Joe Angeyo, for the expert steering of the meeting to this successful conclusion. With those words, dear participants, it would have been my honor to close this meeting, but I'm glad my colleague from AUDA-NEPAD is there, and I hand over to Jennifer if she's still there. Over to you, Joe.
Thank you very much. It will be Justina Dubaza from AUDA-NEPAD.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Joe, and thank you so much, Dr. Chitere. I would just like to echo the same sentiments and to say, first of all, thank you to AATF, because it's the collaboration between the two institutions that has actually made this meeting possible. So thank you very much. Indeed, it's been a really fruitful deliberation with a specific outcome, which is the call to action that we've got. And I'm sure that the two institutions in collaboration with the stakeholders are going to work together to make sure that that is realized on the continent. I would also like to thank our Chief of Staff, Madam Chiriga, for representing the institution, and also the CEO of AATF in giving the opening remarks. Secondly, to also thank the keynote presenters, Dr. Drago, Dr. Nangayo, and then Dr. Mahama. We're also really thankful to the panelists, Dr. Traore, Ms. Koku, Ms. Muchiri, Ms. Moromholo, and then Mr. Nasibu. And last but not least, the distinguished participants without whom this would not have been a meeting, it would have been incomplete. Thank you so much once again for making the time to be with us during this 3.5 hour meeting. And as Dr. Chitere has said, Joe Ageyo, you really facilitated or moderated the session very well, and we do appreciate your skills. I would like to also thank the AUDA-NEPAD IT, our colleague Linda, who's been really supportive in ensuring that we had a very minimal technological glitches. Also thanking the interpreters who have been working quietly, making sure that everybody understands what the meeting is all about. I also like to say a huge thank you to the teams that have worked behind the scene. You know, to put this meeting together, there's been quite a number of meetings between the AATF colleagues, led by Nancy, and then the AUDA-NEPAD colleagues led by myself. There's been a lot of work. So colleagues, thank you very much for all the work that you have done behind the scene to make this a success. We're actually looking forward to continuing this engagement and dialogue. As we had said earlier, the Kalesejuma Executive Dialogue is in addition to the in-person meetings, it's also a virtual platform for meetings as well. And we are open to collaborating with experts, with institutions out there. So if there's someone on that feels that, oh, they could collaborate with the AUDA-NEPAD on the CJD platform to organize a webinar or virtual meeting and to discuss issues that are really of importance to the continent, please get in touch with us. You've got our contact details. So all in all, a huge thank you to everybody for such a successful meeting. This is greatly appreciated.
All right, thank you very much, Justina, for those wonderful remarks. Ending our meeting, which was supposed to end at 15:25 GMT. Right now it's 15:24 GMT, so I think we are fine. So thank you very much for taking part in this. And please, as we said, keep the conversation going, both online and in the various spaces, spheres of influence where you operate on a daily basis. Thank you so much and see you next time.
Yeah.